Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this webinar on this Cscape 10 user interface. We'll just give it another 30 seconds or so there's quite a large registration on this one. And then we'll get into the first of our range of Cscape 10 videos. Okay, I think we've most people in now. So today's video is on the user interface. So it's a bit of a change from Cscape 9, but you'll get to see that throughout the video. It's a relatively short video. It's about 14 minutes or so, but if you have any questions, we can get to those at the end.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today we will be looking at the new Cscape 10 user interface. Let's look at our agenda for today. We will start by looking at the newest elements to the Cscape user interface in detail. These are the quick menu button, the ribbon toolbar, and the quick access toolbar. Then we will show you how you can customize your settings, ladder appearance, and desktop layout. Finally, we will take a quick look at screen editing in tabs, which is one of the biggest differences in the user interface in Cscape 10. There will be demonstrations throughout, and we will finish with a Q&A session. First, we will look at some of the new user interface elements in Cscape 10. We will start with the quick menu button in the top left corner. Then underneath this, we have the ribbon toolbar going across the screen. This is one of the biggest changes from a user interface standpoint in Cscape 10 compared to the pull-down menus used in Cscape 9. Finally, above the ribbon toolbar, we have this series of icons, which is the quick access toolbar. Now let's look at these new user interface features in more detail. We currently don't have a program open, so we will select the quick menu button. This is where we can create a new program or open an existing program. We can also see any recent programs or documents that we had open. Once we have a program open, we will have more options available to use here. For now, we will select New, and once we do this, we can see all the logic editor types available in Cscape. You may not see all of these options when you first install Cscape 10. These options are dependent on your settings, which we haven't reviewed yet. We will opt for Advanced Ladder with variable-based addressing here, and select OK, and a new program has been created. As well as our new user interface elements, we also have some features that carry over from Cscape 9. On the left, we have the Project Navigator, which has received a few changes that we will look at throughout the next few webinars. Then on the right, we have the Project Toolbox, as well as the Program Variable window on the bottom of the screen. This is how we have chosen to set up our desktop. However, we will look at how we can change this layout later in the demonstration. Next, we will look at the ribbon toolbar in more detail. The ribbon toolbar is organized into tabs. We have the Home tab, the Edit tab, Logic Editing, User Interface, Debug, Tools, My Account, and Help. Many of the most frequently used functions in Cscape are available in the Home tab. In this first group, you can choose whether or not you want to have the Project Navigator, the Program Variable window, the Project Toolbox, and the Output window viewed on your desktop. We currently have most of these selected. Next to this, we have the Controller group, where you can set the target ID, invoke the connection wizard, and access the hardware configuration settings. Once we are online with the controller, we will have more options available, such as download, upload, verify, run, do I/O, and stop. Then we have an online change group where we can go into online change mode, perform a download, and revert back to a previous program before an online change. We also have the program group. Here you can look at your element usage. You can also perform an error check on your program, which you may want to do prior to download. Then under messaging, you can configure your email and your MQTT as well as other options. You can also access your protocols here, whether they're serial or Ethernet protocols. Then under the data group here, you can access data logging, the report editor, the recipe databases, and file counters. So this is our ribbon toolbar for the Home tab, which is the main tab you will be using in your programming. The Edit tab can also be useful. However, many of the options, such as copy and paste, can also be performed using keyboard shortcuts. From the Logic Editing group, we can create new ladder blocks, subroutines, and UDFBs, but this can also be done in the Project Navigator. Next to this, in the Logic View group, you have options such as zooming into your Logic window and turning on and off your grid lines. Then we have the User Interface tab, which replaces the graphics editor from Cscape 9 and earlier versions. We will look at graphics and screen editing in Cscape 10 in more detail in the upcoming webinars. In this tab, we have options for viewing thumbnails of your screen, setting up alarms, setting user security, going through your WebMI configuration, adding multiple languages to your project, and dealing with fonts for legacy type or current controllers such as the Micro OCS and XL Prime. Then under Debug, we have the chart recorder function, as well as the remote terminal for simple screens like you might have on an XLE, for example. Then we have the Tools menu, which gives us another way to access the connection wizard. We can also change passwords here and have more options to deal with variables such as register backup. Once again, we will have more options available here once we are online with the controller. Under My Account, you can view your profile and change your login credentials for Cscape. Finally, we have the Help tab, where you can access all kinds of information to help you when using Cscape 10. This option is online based. However, if you're not currently online, there will be a local copy of the help information on your computer for you to access. You can also check for updates for Cscape, as well as access our how-to video library and contact information for Horner tech support worldwide. So this is our ribbon toolbar for Cscape 10. Next, let's look at the Quick Access toolbar, which you will find by default at the top of the screen here. This is a set of commands represented by icons. This is the default set of commands, but you can customize this by selecting this down arrow button. When we do this, we get a drop-down list of all of the different commands available, and you can choose which commands you want in your setup. Here we can deselect commands and change the order of the list. We can also add more commands by selecting More Commands. From here we can choose from many different categories of commands to add to our Quick Access toolbar. We will select User Interface, for example. If we want to add the Configure Alarms capability to our Quick Access toolbar, we select this and then press Add, and by default, the new command is added to the bottom of our list. Using the arrows here, we can move it up and down our list, and once we are happy with where it is placed in our list, we will press OK. Now our new command has been added to our Quick Access toolbar. We can also move the Quick Access toolbar below the ribbon toolbar if we want, by going to the down arrow button again and selecting Show below the ribbon. Within the controls for the Customize Quick Access toolbar, under More Commands, we can also customize our keyboard shortcuts. Here we can create keyboard shortcuts for any of the functions in the ribbon toolbar or change any existing shortcuts. Now let's look at another improvement in the user interface for Cscape 10. We will select the Quick Menu button in the top left corner and go to our settings. With Cscape 10, we can access all of our settings conveniently in one place. There are some new setting options available for Cscape 10. Under Appearance, you can select between 4 different color themes for your ribbon toolbar. Under Logic Display, you have a lot of control over the colors, font sizes, and shapes of your function blocks. We also have compiler options, which we will look at in more detail when discussing how Cscape 10 handles variable-based ladder type variables on download. We also have many options available in previous versions of Cscape together in one place, such as Logic Editor, numbering, and all the different download options. We also have the application settings here, which is where we can select the different languages we want to be able to support when we create a new project, as well as the communication settings for communicating with the controller. Now let's look at our Logic Display menu in more detail. Here we can completely customize the way our graphics look in our Ladder Logic graphic editing area. We can select the ladder display button and see all the different options to customize our logic display. First, we have multiple schemes available. There's the default classic scheme, as well as a dark and a light option. Next, we can change the background color for the logic editing area. We can also change the colors, font, and font size of the labels. As we change the font size here, we can see it change in real time in the logic window below. We can also adjust the font and font size and color on the wiring. You can also customize your comments in the same way. Then for our function blocks, we can change the color to contrast with and stand out from the background. You can also change the shape of the function blocks from the default rectangular shape to a more rounded rectangle, for example. We also have many options to customize our grid lines, such as changing the style of the line from dotted to solid. We can control the thickness of the grid on the column settings and row settings, as well as the colors and the fonts. So Cscape 10 allows you to have much more control over the way your ladder logic appears on your desktop than you've had in previous versions of Cscape. Now let's look at how we can rearrange our desktop in Cscape 10. We have set up our desktop so that we have the Project Navigator on the left, the Project Toolbox on the right, and the Program Variables window on the bottom. But if you want to change your layout, you have a lot more control with Cscape 10 than you had in Cscape 9. So if we want to move the program variable window, for example, we can click and drag it, and once we do this, we get these arrows on the screen. If we hover the mouse over one of these arrows, it will show us with the shaded blue box where it will be placed. So we can place the program variables next to the Project Navigator, or if we want it to be on the far right side instead, we can navigate over to the right and select this far right control here. We can also choose to place it to the left of the project toolbar instead. So once again, we now have a lot more control over our desktop layout. We will move the program variable window to the bottom of the screen again. If we also want to put the output window, for example, at the bottom of the screen, next to the program variable window, we will first choose it from the menu and it will be stacked underneath it. If we click and drag the program variable window to the bottom of the screen, this will just make them switch places, so we need to click and drag the output window down to the program variable window. And once we do this, we hover over the right arrow. Now the output window is next to the program variable window, and we can adjust the size of the two windows by moving the border between them. Finally, we will take a quick look at how we can edit graphics or screens in tabs alongside your logic in Cscape 10, instead of the graphics editor from older versions. We will first create a screen to demonstrate this. To do this, we will go to the Project Navigator and then User Interface. Then we will right-click Main Screen and select New Screen. Here we can name the screen. For example, we will call this Main Menu. After we name it, it will put in brackets the number of the screen, which is important if you want to trigger them from one of the screen variables. Once we have done this, we can see that it creates a screen editing tab and puts it alongside of the logic tabs that are already open. So now when we want to edit screen graphics, we are doing this in a tab alongside our logic, not from an editor window sitting on top of it. That concludes our webinar for today. Thank you so much for listening, and the Q&A session will begin shortly.
Okay, hopefully that was a beneficial introduction to you for Cscape 10 if you have started using it. In the upcoming weeks, as you should see on my screen now, we have a whole host of Cscape 10 videos, and all the registration links are up there if you would like to register for those. It'll be every week for the next couple of weeks. I'm not seeing any questions on that. I think it was kind of a straightforward one today. Okay, thank you all for joining this morning. As I said, all those new webinars are coming up, and you'll be able to rewatch this one back. They will be uploaded below to the past webinar section for anything that you missed or need to go back on. Okay, thank you all very much, and see you again next week.